Yes, guys, today is Sunday, the 12th of July. Pre-week analysis, as per usual. Going to be starting on DXY, moving over to the euro, covering the pound, and then looking at gold briefly, if we need to. If anything pops up in the chat box, then I'll address that. But apart from that, we'll focus on the usual. Kicking straight off on DXY, I thought I'd start on the weekly for a change. I don't typically look this far out. But in terms of the models that we follow, that I follow at least, in terms of accumulation, manipulation, distribution, however you want to put it, power of three, whatever, you know, for the last few weeks we've kind of been clearing out the manipulation side. So we had been accumulating for a very long time, essentially from June last year, potentially, or arguably from May potentially. And then we started the manipulation phase back in April, and now we are looking like we could potentially see somewhat of a reversal. However, obviously we are still relatively bullish. Last week did close as a doji, so an indecision candle in terms of direction. It isn't 100% clear just based off that last weekly candle. If I just zoom in, we can see that here. This candle here, indecision, you see it pushed up, failed to go any higher, pushed down, failed to go any lower, closed in the middle. So indecisive. If I move to the hour to the daily, you can see that price is, well, it was looking like it was slowly coming towards our point of interest. That is horrible. You remove that. We drew up our fib a few weeks ago. In terms of, this is our swing of interest, with an area of interest being this value gap in the discount. And we were simply saying that if price came down to its extreme, then it would be nice to see if we got some sort of reaction to show that price would potentially be going higher. So that's still yet to be seen if that happens. However, what we are doing is obviously rejecting a certain level. And if we look to the left, we have got a fair value gap that we can note that price is now filled. So potentially we're holding this region. We have come into 50%, so arguably potentially the swing is relatively balanced. So just yet to be seen what we want to do from this area, really. Understanding that we're in a relatively key spot, however, we are ranging. So if we look at last week's price action, if we go to Monday, I'll go from here. Monday to Friday, accumulation. Oh, let me change the color of these so we can actually see. Blue. Oh my god. There we go. So accumulating all of last week, what we want to see now is, if we want to go bullish, following an A&D model, we want to see price sweep and give us confirmation to respect that level and head back higher. Potentially, we could see previous week highs get taken out. And we have an area of interest, kind of, I guess there's a little bit of a gap remaining in terms of how this candle wick didn't quite fill this entire gap to the left. So arguably we do still have a little bit of a gap that price could look to rebalance. So what that could look like is seeing accumulation, manipulation in here, and then seeing price come back down if it wants to facilitate the move all the way back to the extreme demand. So two options there. What is more likely is the question, is the golden question. Obviously, 4 hourly wise, we are still relatively, well, we are still bearish. If anything, we're going to be looking somewhat bearish on the dollar. However, things were starting to ramp up. We understand that things in terms of the tensions in the Middle East have increased again, which means risk off assets are going to be increasing in value or basically going up. So we should see the dollar basically start to rise if things do get worse. However, I think there's a lot of mistrust in the market. So if that doesn't follow through, then we could obviously see the dollar plummet even more and see obviously euro, pound, etc. Go bullish again. So keeping an eye on it, keeping it mechanical in these kind of ambiguous times. But again, a couple of options to look at from a technical perspective, and just to go back over those. Previous week high sweep, to push lower, option 1, or previous week low sweep with fundamental alignment potentially to then push higher, because we are accumulating essentially. So I'm not going to be wanting to trade in any of this. I'll be real. If price is continuing to move sideways in here throughout Monday, then it's going to be a bit of a red flag. I'm not going to want to be caught in that low volume kind of condition. If anything, I'll be taking evaluation or challenge trades in that, not funded or personal kind of live capital. Not something I want to be risking essentially. So, and just to give a little bit of a forecast, because we like to give a little bit of a forecast, but not necessarily marry it. As I mentioned, price is holding this fair value gap in here. We are in a bullish daily swing. We've taken out internal range liquidity in the form of this bearish low has been swept in the bullish swing. So what we could see is the sweep to then go higher, which would align with daily, which would be quite nice. We could also see some sort of SMT with EU, for example, where EU does take the high, so it would obviously be the flip of DXY, so it would take the high and then go lower, whereas we could see DXY come not quite take this low and then look to go higher. That would be potentially a nice move to see. So if that's what we're looking at on DXY, if I just switch to the euro, tended to go fresh chart. If I go fresh chart, I'll get a different chart up. Here we go. So same case on the euro, by the way. Obviously, we've just been ranging for a very long time, not really going anywhere, or arguably we were ranging to here. Potentially saw a manipulation in here, pushed lower, retraced, failed to push higher, and then we pushed low. So bearish sentiment on the week on the euro at least. Daily is looking. Oh, if I zoom in. Daily again, this is not looking very nice. We are really, really accumulating quite hard to the upside, generating some strong sell side trend line liquidity. A little bit of a descending wedge that you can see. So that is essentially, or descending flag. What is that? Which is basically push. Basically looks like that. And then the next step of a descending flag is supposedly a push lower. So good to see that. It'll be dependent on what we get. Obviously, we're not quite in the discount or on the premium of this daily swing, so we could see price come higher. We have got, points of interest in the form of this order block, potentially this fair value gap. If we move that to the left, obviously it is previous support and resistance. So this would probably be the key level to look to see if price comes to. I'll be interested to see what it does there on the 4 hour. But that is a while away, so I'm not massively concerned. What I will be looking at is this near-term price action, like I was on DXY, and how we're basically failing to do anything at this region, closing the bearish candle on the last day of last week. So what I'll be looking for price to do is ultimately take out lows to the downside, like so. And that could start with a previous week high sweep, so obviously a negative correlation to DXY. So it'll be the previous high week sweep and then push. If we were looking at liquidity concepts, and that was the plan, but we don't always get exactly what we want. So being open-minded to different situations, basically. Something I just spotted as well is this flat body low, daily flat body low, which we could also use as a target. So we've got 2 key sell side targets that we could take out: sell side liquidity, SSL, and also just conscious of this trend line liquidity as well. So ultimately on the daily, we are bearish. We have key sell side liquidity targets as well. It's in the form of this flat body low, this low in here as well, which is an internal range low. It failed to push above this high. So as you can see, this low failed to create a high higher than this. So we could now see lows like so. On the 4 hour, tidy some of this up. What we can see is that we are still in a bearish 4 hourly swing. So from this high to this low, there was no break of this strong 4 hourly high. So this is the strong 4 hourly high because it was the highest point before the lowest low. Then we are still technically in a bearish swing. Okay, so this is all low volume bullish price action because we're moving up or we're failing to push above strong 4 hourly highs. So we've come to a region in the market which is, relatively of interest. We say we've got this 4 hourly order block as well, which we can scale into and basically say this is what's being respected at the moment. If this is yet to be true, as you can see, this is likely a strong hourly swing. This would also be a key target. So we've got another set of, so if you have multiple take profits, for example, you could have TP1 at this first low here, TP2. This is a swing position, for instance, not something that I particularly look at, but key areas to target essentially. I'm just going to remove this for now because it's getting messy. Something just to be conscious of is obviously this bullish fair value gap in here, which was respected last week but didn't quite close all the way through. So we could see price instantly come to rebalance that, see what it does there. If we flush through, then we could use it as a flip zone to then target lower targets basically, so in form of these lows, and that would align with the daily time frame. So that would be quite nice. It is not the most pretty chart in the world. let's be real. This is accumulation. This was accumulation, and on the daily, it looks horrible. And on a weekly, doesn't look much better. So it just goes to show what's been going on this year, really, in terms of the macroeconomics and how the way that's been dictating everything. We've also had obviously interest rates come out on both sides, on the euro and the dollar, which looks to push the market in a certain way, but based on geopolitics, it's basically pushed it or squeezed it in the opposing direction, is what we've seen, as far as I'm aware anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong. So again, just causing that lack of direction, lack of decisive direction, basically. Hence why we are more or less moving sideways on a lot of time frames. So that is that. I can switch to the hourly briefly, just to show what we got last week. So you can see that high, high, low. And then we broke this structure in here. So we are now in an hourly bearish swing. Came up, not much in terms of for price to rebalance in here, but we do now have a fresh fair value gap, which we would look for price to retest before coming lower on the front end of next week. So we could see Sunday kind of gap up into here or gap away, fill that gap, come into this area of inefficiency, see what happens there, potentially catch shorts on euro back towards these lows to fill in this imbalance. That would be quite a nice play, but I'm not going to be looking to speculate on that too much. If that makes sense, I'm just going to trade what price gives me, and right now it is Sunday, so I'll wait for market open to see what we get. More on that front, but for now, that is what we're looking at. Simply bearish. Could see price come higher, but it's going to be very dependent on how we react. One, at this near-term hourly fair value gap. Two, at this level in here, which was an area that price previously stalled at and then reversed from. If we fail both of those, then we could flip through here and look to come higher. So 3 potential options, and open to multiple narratives, basically, given that this is not a nice price action. So just quickly, what does this look like on GU? remove that. So first thing that I see on the daily, price is obviously holding this order block, and it's a nice order block because it is the last bullish candle before price broke structure to the downside. So this is a relevant area in the market for me. We scale in on the 4 hourly. What are we starting to do? Obviously, we know GU has been slightly more bullish than EU recently, or maybe significantly more bullish. However, we are looking to basically start switching. So you can see we've already got a change in state of delivery. And again, just being visual, we created an area of resistance. It pushed through. We would expect it to then hold if we were going to remain bullish, but it failed. Price then continued to push through, failed to push higher, and then continued to push lower again. So we have now created a 4 hourly order block in the form of this CISD basically. And next region that I'm going to want to see price take out at least, or maybe trade towards if we're going to go bearish on the hourly, is at least these lows. I'm going to be very conscious of this bullish fair value gap though. I wouldn't want to target below this region. I would look to trade into this region and then see what price does there. If we get confirmation of that level being held, then it would, there's a pretty good chance it could come all the way back up. If however, for example, we take profit at this region, it stalls and then it flushes through, the next day potentially we can catch a retrace and a continuation. Excuse me. So that again is just an example of waiting for extra confirmation rather than hoping that price is just going to go in our direction. So let me just push to the hourly. As you can see, the hourly hasn't actually taken out its swing low right now. It's external strong low, which is why this is a potential sell side target that we could see price come into. I mean, I wouldn't look to take GU shorts actually when I think about it, because higher high, higher low, higher high, external low has not been broken yet. External high is still, relatively untested. So if we're remaining bullish, then price is going to want to make another high. However, the first indication of going bearish, apart from this noise in here, because it's between the two external swing points, we would want to see price push through, and then we would get confirmation to go lower. So I'm going to want to see that get taken first. So if I just change this to strong hourly low, then we could see price come into this fair value gap, or at least look to fill the fair value gap. And just conscious again, below that we've got another region that price has failed to push through before. So again, those that trade support and resistance, an area of support just in there, just to be conscious of. Comprende. G on the weekly is butters. Don't want to look at it, so we'll leave that one there. The daily did sweep out these lows a while back. I just want to see what we do at this region. Basically, we haven't pushed through it yet. We are clearly rejecting it. As you can see, if I just zoom in, after this candle wick high, we failed to close above it twice. So I want to see what we do basically. Don't mind sitting out, seeing what we get. Obviously, I will continue to trade my mechanical model, but understanding what's higher and lower probability is just weighing up those small discretions to see what we get. Cool. I won't touch on. Oh, actually, I will. Fuck it. Back it. So I might have to clear some out of the way for gold here. Let's get rid of that. That was a loss. Sad times. Whoops. So a while back, last week. Last week we were looking at price in this region and saying this is a key level to see what gold does basically. And essentially I drew out this potential map for gold. And it did exactly that. And I was able to catch some shorts on Monday, basically all the way down to here, which was really nice. Essentially I was looking to continue in that trend, trading off this order block in here, but I got manipulated, and that's yeah, can't do much about that. So price did demonstrate that this was a region of interest by pushing lower, basically. In terms of where we reacted from, we filled this imbalance. We haven't filled this imbalance down here. So this is still a fresh zone. It's something that I'm going to be looking at basically. Continuing with that bearish view on the 4 hour. However, there is obviously evidence of us basically looking to retest these highs. And the reason for that is that we've inversed this fair value gap now. We've retested it, failed, and now we're pushing higher. Simple as that, really. Again, it's not pretty on the hourly. Things last week kind of closed out pretty uncertain just based on what's kind of kicked off again in the Middle East. In terms of highs of interest, so this would be a strong hourly high. We did get a candle close, but it closed through that. And like I said, that's when we then retraced, held this level. So all I'm gonna be looking at price based on what it's giving me is to see this thing get taken out next. Next slide to be taken, question mark. Okay, because currently we're bullish on the hourly. 4 hourly narrative is arguably more bullish at the moment as well, but daily remaining bearish. So essentially essentially we're coming into an area of accumulation that I just don't want to get caught out in, because that is where a lot of losses tend to happen, and I try to avoid that. So these arrows can relatively stay in the same place. If we see price flip this zone, then I'm going to want to see it come all the way back up here. And if it does come up here, then we can see it basically then go lower from there because it's going to be an extreme level of supply. Near time price action, we could see price come up here, and then we want to see what it does because we can then see it push through, and that'll be arrow 2 basically being confirmed, or we can see it start to step down, which would be another narrative potentially. Okay. So I've seen that someone has just jumped in. Tom, what are you saying, lad? I'm just about to close up. I'll just flip back to DXY for this. Nice one, lad. So just to close up, DXY accumulating is currently the ugly stepsister. We want to see it come up to this high, potentially. But we're very, very conscious of the inefficiency below that we could see it ultimately come down into before getting another reaction. Like I said, we're accumulating, so key in terms of following the narrative, what we want to see is basically previous week get taken out, previous week low, and then go bullish, or we could ultimately see price take out previous week high and then go bearish and then see it come back into here. And just for reference, that is the weekly candle, an indecision candle. Okay, we're also holding this gap, so let's just see what happens Monday. See what happens, and we'll take it from there. Cheers, guys. Any questions, Tom, before I close out? Cool. Yeah, we'll jump on in a sec. Did you want me to cover anything in here or just do it on a one-to-one? Cool. All right. Cheers, guys. Have a good trading week. I'm gonna be relatively inactive. I am in Amsterdam. Well, I'm in Amsterdam from Tuesday onwards, but I'll still be relatively active on the charts. So have a good one. See you.